Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience, which I expected since we're so close to work today. On behalf of the City of Cape Coral, I'd like to welcome all of you and thank you for joining us this morning for the unveiling of the Hurricane Ian plaque at Reflections Park. I do want to take a moment to talk about Reflections Park and just the location of it for the people who are joining us through the Facebook Live, or even if you're watching the recorded version later today. Reflections Park is a small community park. It's located adjacent to City Hall and across the street from the Emergency Operations Center. It's a great place to come to walk around it's very serene, walk around the path. There's a beautiful lake. And of course, there's lots of plaques throughout the park. So I encourage you to come out when you do have time. We know not everyone can make it in the middle of the work week at 8:30 in the morning, but this park is always here. So please come on out. This time last year, for a lot of us at city employees, there are a lot of us who are what we call activated. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it's the employees who, when an emergency is imminent, we get called into the Emergency Operations Center, and in a situation like Hurricane Ian, we actually have to live at the Emergency Operations Center for several days. And so we get called in a year ago, yesterday, we were already there, and we have to make sure that we keep the city up and running, and that is really the goal. And then, of course, tackling the recovery process after the storm had passed. And so when I think about this time last year, once we were already at the Emergency Operations Center today, I think about how the messaging that we sent out to our residents at this point in time, which was that if you had not yet evacuated, it was too late. And even saying that gives me goosebumps. At this point in time, if you hadn't evacuated, you had to hunker down, stay put, and ride out the storm. And there was a point in time, too, where we knew that this could quite possibly be the worst storm that our city had experienced, and it was. A lot of times I start out these events with a really bad joke, but as we approached today and I thought about it, I just couldn't think of anything funny about Hurricane Ian. To me, there was nothing funny about it. So I'm going to just go ahead and jump right in. The plaque that we will unveil today commemorates Hurricane Ian and is dedicated to those who were killed and injured, those who were left homeless, and those who were left jobless due to the destructive power of Ian. With wind speeds exceeding 160 miles an hour and a storm surge of up to 9 feet, Ian was one of the strongest landfalling hurricanes to strike the U.S. within the last 100 years. In Southwest Florida, over 150 people were killed as a direct result of the hurricane's force. In Lee County, approximately 70 people were killed. Hundreds of people were injured. Tens of thousands of homes were damaged or destroyed. Thousands of people were unable to return to their homes, and many lost their jobs. And as extraordinary as these numbers sound, they pale in comparison to seeing the aftermath firsthand and the destruction. I will never forget, and I'm sure most of you won't either, the destruction that you could see in Cape Coral in all directions. It seemed like there wasn't one house, one tree that had not been touched by this storm. So today, as we commemorate the 1-year anniversary of Hurricane Ian and honor the great strides that our city has made to improve our readiness for the next major storm, I find it especially fitting that this plaque is here at Reflections Park. It's a place created for visitors to come and reflect, and a favorite location of our city manager. I smile when I say this because he showed me this place when he was first appointed as interim, a place that he likes to come to sometimes and reflect, take a moment to think, maybe take a phone call that he needs to take. So now he's no longer interim, he's permanent. So please join me in welcoming Cape Coral's thoughtful and dynamic city manager. He has a passion for progress and a fresh perspective, and I'm also honored to call him my friend. Please welcome Michael Ilchisen.
Thank you, friend. I want to thank everybody for coming out this morning. Um, the same as Melissa was describing and reflecting on, where we were this time last year, and where all of our residents were, where all of our employees were, and and what was coming our way. Many times we get called and activated, as Melissa says, but we don't always know where the storm's going to go. So we always, pray for the best, and unfortunately, we have to prepare for the worst. And unfortunately, that's what we got with Hurricane Ian. 2 or 3 weeks prior to the storm even making landfall, staff starts to prepare, breaking down construction sites, hardening buildings. Then we start to mobilize equipment, all in preparation for what could become, and unfortunately, with Ian, what did become the first ever Category 5 storm that hit Cape Coral. If you go back and watch the videos of the eye wall, you'll see the eye wall pass right over northwest Cape Coral. And when we're inside the emergency operations center, or our employees are inside firehouses, water treatment plants, we don't really know what the residents know, because for the most part, these buildings are hardened with windows and shutters, and so we can't really see outside. But the residents that were here knew exactly what was going on. I saw an article yesterday that Chief Lamb, our fire chief, did with News Press, and just explained how many calls we had in waiting. And so the needs of the residents, while we were waiting for the storm to pass, continued to mount and continued to grow. At some point, we had an opportunity, once the storm passed, to get out. And public works crews went out, cleared the major roads so that fire trucks and police officers could get out and immediately start securing the city. Our water treatment folks had to begin restoring water. For those of you who are here, you know that we had to shut down the water distribution system. And then our wastewater folks had to start restoring power to the wastewater system, because once the water came on, it had to flow back to the plants. So this commemorative rock and the plaque for me will allow me through the rest of my career here to come here and reflect on all the dedicated staff that served during that storm. It will allow me to reflect on all the businesses that helped each other throughout the storm, whether it was providing food, water. I was speaking with the owner of the, slipping my mind, but she was explaining to me, Wicked Dolphin, sorry. I was speaking with the owner, Joanne from Wicked Dolphin, and she was explaining to me how she had to convert all the vats that she makes her product in, and convert it into hand sanitizer, and then just water, to distribute water. I'm still learning the stories of what our community went through. Been so focused on getting the city back, I don't know all the things that all of our residents and businesses went through. But as we drive around and I go throughout the city, I can still see people trying to restore homes, businesses still trying to restore their businesses. And I know we'll get there. It's a long process, and I understand that it's not something that we spring back from. We've been through Category 3 storms. We've been through Category 4 storms. This one is testing Cape Coral, but I know that this commemorative plaque and the rock is going to show how resilient we are and how strong we are as a community together. I want to invite everybody that came out this morning to tomorrow's resilience rally to help us continue our restoration in the community, to help restock all of the community shelters and the food banks, the animal shelter. I would really love to see just as many people, if not 10, 20 times more, to help our community get back to where we were before Ian. So with that, I'm going to introduce Mayor John Gunter to say a few words, and then I'm going to read what's on the plaque, and then we can unveil it. Mayor Gunter.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone, and I appreciate you coming out today. You know, this is a historic occasion. You know, it's unfortunate that we find ourselves here today. I'm sure each and every one of us wish we weren't here today. But unfortunately, we had to go through that catastrophic storm. And I remember saying, and I'll say it again today, that storm may have knocked us down, but it surely didn't knock us out. And we are a resilient community. We are building back, and I know that we'll be stronger than we were before. And I just want to thank everyone in our community that, you know, have been putting that effort forward to make sure that we are a stronger community. We're not only doing that here at the city and with our response, but I know our community is doing that as well, and I wanted to thank them for that. You know, it's been a year since Hurricane Ian that tested our resilience, and today we commemorate the struggles and the triumphs that we faced together as a community. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to the first responders, the emergency service, and the city employees who stepped up during those challenges. Like the city manager mentioned, you know, our emergency operations center, you know I was there at least a week, 24 hours a day, before and after the storm. You know, each and every one of us probably has a story. You heard the city manager just tell one of the stories. You know, but one thing that he didn't mention that he did, that, and most people in the community don't realize this, hospitals in our county were shutting down because they didn't have water or electricity. And they were shutting down one by one. And Cape Coral was on the verge, our hospital was on the verge of shutting down. We did get the electric back up, but we didn't have water. So our city manager was the public works director at the time. And I can tell you that he and his staff were out there for 2 days straight trying to find valves in the city, shutting those valves off, streamlining the water directly to the hospital. And we had until 4 o'clock that afternoon to get the hospital water. And it was probably about 5 minutes before 4 when we turned that last valve on and got water to the hospital. And that was such, you know, a great relief for our community. We knew how important it was to keep that hospital open. So I wanted to thank our city manager and his team for all his hard work during that time, because we were on the verge of losing our hospital at the time. You know, I had the opportunity to work alongside many people that are standing around here today and many people who are not. And your selfless dedication to the city of Cape Coral, the hard work and dedication that I saw firsthand demonstrated by city staff was remarkable. Most people don't realize what we ask those people to do in our emergency operations. We ask them to leave their families, leave their homes, and come and be with us at the Emergency Operations Center so we could protect our community. And that's a difficult ask. And I wanted to thank each and every one of those people that came to the Emergency Operations Center. They were there for our community. They left their families and they left their home. So I wanted to thank you personally for that dedication that happens each and every time that we have a crisis like this. We knew that the storm was probably going to be the worst storm that we ever experienced, but we remained steadfast, focused on our task at hand to take care of our city and our community in the aftermath of the storm. You know, I remember about 11 p.m. Getting into the vehicle with our fire chief after the storm. The winds have subsided to 45 mile an hour. And we started driving around the city. You know, we knew it was going to be bad, but, you know, for me it was a little worse than I thought it was going to be. I remember getting down to Del Prado and Cape Coral Parkway. We were in an SUV. The waters were too high. We tried to travel east of Del Prado down near the river. The waters were too high. I knew then that there were going to be many families that were going to be devastated. because we couldn't even drive down the road because the water was too high. Luckily, the waters came in and the waters went out fairly quickly. Unfortunately, they left their mark. The next morning, I started driving around in those areas once the water had receded, and you could see the destruction, the devastation. You could see the devastation on people's faces that lost everything that they owned. They started carrying it out to the streets. So with the days to follow, those streets, same streets that I rode down, the debris piled higher and higher and higher. And within about a week, it looked like a war zone. And people were just devastated. They lost everything that they owned. Some people had insurance, some people didn't. You know, so we tried to do what we could for our community to bring it together. I remember going over to, you know, one of the local restaurants down in the South Cape, 2 Meatballs. And the National Guard had just set up the emergency pod stations throughout the city. But the one station down in the South Cape, they hadn't eaten all day. It was about 4 or 5 o'clock. You know, they were busy working. So I drove over to 2 Meatballs. I got about 50 meals from them that they donated and took over to the National Guard. You know, so we had a lot of people from outside of our community that helped us as well. The National Guard, other police and fire departments came here to help us get through those critical times, to do that search and rescue. You know, I remember riding down streets and seeing X's on houses. You know, I hope I never see that again. That's the house that they already searched to make sure that everyone got out and they were okay. I hope I never see that again. But today we gather not only to remember the trials of the King, but also to honor the lives lost and the sacrifices made. I am honored to help unveil this commemorative monument, which will stand as a tribute to those who are no longer with us and those in the community who worked tirelessly through the storm to come back stronger. This monument will remind us the strength, the courage, the compassion that defines our community. Again, we were knocked down, we were not knocked out, and we will be a stronger community. Council and city leadership will make sure that we're a stronger community tomorrow than we were prior to Hurricane Ian. Thank you very much.
I'm going to read what's on the plaque before we unveil it. It says, "In memoriam, Hurricane Ian's unforgettable impact on Cape Coral. Hurricane Ian passed over Cape Coral on Tuesday, September 28, 2022. It was the first Category 5 hurricane to strike Cape Coral, and the city will forever bear its indelible mark of Hurricane Ian. During the harrowing days following the storm, 1,289 members of dedicated city staff worked tirelessly to safeguard the community. For 14 days, they stood united under a local state of emergency. Amidst the wreckage, they gathered 966,000 cubic yards of construction and demolition debris and 2,252,052 cubic yards of vegetative debris from the roadways and canals. With storm surge up to 9 feet and wind speeds reaching a peak intensity of 160 miles an hour, Cape Coral lost its cherished pier, a symbol of the community's resilience in the face of nature's wrath. Ian was responsible for over 150 deaths and over 112 billion in damage, making it the costliest hurricane in Florida's history. Let this plaque serve as a solemn reminder of the strength and unity of Cape Coral. Together, our community weathered the storm, emerging stronger and more united than ever. Hashtag Cape Coral Together."
Thank you. At this time, if we could have our city manager, our mayor, and our police chief and fire chief, all a part of our unified command during an emergency operations, step up near the rock. And if each of you could grab a piece of the blanket, perfect. You want to pause for a moment? Do you guys need photo? And then we'll count down together. 3, 2, 1, unveil. Thank you so much. If everyone here, if you could go ahead, and I know it's a little bit damp, but if we could get you in a photo as well, that would be wonderful. Everyone who's able to go ahead and get behind the rock, not close to the rock, but kind of behind there. Everyone who's here, go ahead. Even if you're on the sidewalk, if you could come in towards the trees, towards our people in the grassy area, just for a photo. Thank you. Move on in there, don't be shy. We all went through this together. Ready, 3, 2, 1. Sarah, let's do one where everyone just looks at the woman in the blue shirt, holding the camera up high. 3, 2, 1. Any more? Good, wonderful. Thank you all so much for coming today. Please join us at Pop's Cafe. We have some wonderful treats for everybody. We would love for you to join us there afterwards. Thank you so much.
To read that.
I think so. It's this Saturday, right? All right, we're going to get tickets. I forgot about this.